Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1913B, and today's date is July 10th, 2019, and the title of the episode is News Unlocks, Info Scrubbed, Symbolism Will Be Their Downfall. Now, before I get started, we know there are many different common threats nowadays in America, and one of the best things you can invest in for your home protection is a Patriot flashlight. That is why Rugged Reserves wants to extend a special 15% Patriot discount to all customers throughout the month of July. Why the Patriot flashlight? Well, you never have to waste money on batteries. There's a strobe light. You have a compass, a rope, wire cutter. You can recharge your phone. It's an incredible flashlight. Visit patriotflashlight.com. Use the promo code X15 for 15% off. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are doing everything they possibly can to remove all evidence of Epstein and Clinton and other players. Basically, what they're doing is they're scrubbing the internet of pictures and everything else as fast as they possibly can. And you can see the mainstream media, they're pushing the agenda, as we knew they would, to tie Epstein with Trump. And once again, they are projecting. Think about Russian collusion, for example. They projected everything that Clinton, Mueller, Obama, and the rest did. They were colluding with Russia. They were selling secrets. They meddled in the elections. The same thing is happening with the Epstein case. They're projecting everything that they have done onto Trump. But it's going to fail, just like the Russian collusion, because there is so much evidence, documented evidence, that shows the opposite. And we're going to be getting into that in just a moment because we have a lot of Q posts to go through and a lot of news. Let's first start off with an update on what happened with Antifa in Portland. It seems that there was an arrest and indictment on multiple charges, and this individual, Gage Halapowski, 24, has been lodged in the county jail on felony charges of assault to unlawful use of a weapon, along with misdemeanor charges of interfering with a peace officer and attempting to commit a Class C felony. Now remember, this is the individual responsible in splitting open Adam Kelly's head. Now, the individuals that attacked Andy, they have not been identified, even though the alternative media has already identified them. But at this point, no one has been charged. No one has been arrested for that. Now, very interestingly, Trump is defending Home Depot co-founder Bernie Marcus because people are looking to boycott Home Depot because of what Bernie Marcus has done, because he donated to the president's re-election bid. So did Ross Perot. Trump tweeted out the following: "A truly great patriotic and charitable man, Bernie Marcus, the co-founder of Home Depot, who, at the age of 90, is coming under attack by the radical left Democrats with one of their often used weapons. They don't want people to shop at those great stores because he contributed to your favorite president, me. These people are vicious and totally crazed. But remember, there are far more great people, deplorables, in this country than bad. Do to them what they do to you. Fight for Bernie Marcus and Home Depot." He continued, "More and more the radical left is using commerce to hurt their enemy. They put out the name of a store, brand, or company and ask their so-called followers not to do business there. They don't care who gets hurt, but also don't understand that two can play at that game." And that is absolutely true. Now, let's move on to Mueller, the Steele dossier, because it looks like I.G. Horowitz investigated and interviewed Chris Steele between June 3rd and June 5th, a 16-hour session. As expected, Mr. Steele would only talk to OIG investigators from Horowitz's office. Steele would not speak to U.S. Attorney John Durham. The interview took place at the same time President Trump traveled to the UK, June 3rd to June 5th, for a state visit. likely coordinated so the FBI officials could travel innocuously without media scrutiny. The interviews took place over 2 days for a total of 16 hours of conversation. The recent report of IG delay and follow-up interviews are almost certainly related to the outcome of the investigative findings. And we do believe that Kathleen Kovalak cooperated with all of this. She came forward. Now, we also need to understand is that the current officials within the Department of Justice and FBI, those with interests related to the corrupt activity surrounding the FBI and Department of Justice, the use of the Steele dossier, they're leaking information to Lawfare Alliance Media. And we knew that this was going to happen. And this is why nothing has been released to Nunes, because Adam Schiff would be leaking it to the media. And they know this. Paul Sperry tweeted out the following. Buried in New York Times story by January 17th, FBI tracked down and interviewed one of Steele's main sources, Milian, and came to suspect the man might have added his own interpretations to reports from his own sources he passed on to Steele, calling into question reliability of that information. Trump tweeted out the following. FBI Christopher Steele fake story falls apart. False intel and media contacts were flagged before FISA. John Solomon, The Hill. Paul Sperry then tweeted out the following. Breaking. In a major blow to Dems, Russia stole election narrative. A U.S. judge orders Mueller to cease and desist making unsupported claim the Russian troll farm entities he indicted were directed by the Kremlin as part of a social media influence ops to interfere in the 2016 election. Everything that Mueller has done is completely falling apart. And now we get word that the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals dismissed a lawsuit accusing Trump of profiting from his business interests in violation of the U.S. Constitution. And they're saying that there is nothing here. Trump tweeted out the following. Word just out that I won a big part of the deep state and Democrat-induced witch hunt. Unanimous decision in my favor from the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit on the ridiculous emoluments case. I don't make money, but lose a fortune for the honor of serving and doing a great job as your president, including accepting zero salary. The deep state failed with Russian collusion, failed with this court case, failed with everything else that they're doing, and they're going to fail with pointing the finger at Trump, saying that he was part of the Epstein sex ring. It's all going to fail. Now, we know that the Russians did not meddle in the elections, but we know that big tech companies are. Intelligence organizations are. Paul Sperry tweeted out the following. FBI and CIA are hiding evidence they themselves meddled in the election to help Clinton win, while ensuring they had checks in place against a renegade Trump presidency by using FISAs to hack into Trump's aides' emails and by running a network of spies against them. And we are starting to see, from what Project Veritas has said with their investigative reporting, and from everything that we've been investigating, it was not the Russians. It was our own intelligence organizations. It was big tech. They have been meddling in the elections. Now let's talk about migrants entering the country illegally. Number one, California Governor Gavin Newsom. He signed bills to give taxpayer-funded health care to illegal aliens. Now, he signed a bill into law which will allow individuals under a certain age to receive free health care. California is now the first state to provide taxpayer-funded health care to illegals. Now think about it. California has homeless people in San Francisco, has homeless people all throughout California living in tents. Who's paying for this health care? And why should illegals coming into this country get free health care while you have people living on the side of the road? Think about this for a second. And who is paying for all of this? Because if there's no money to help these people, how is there money to give free health insurance? And like Q has been telling us, California is in trouble. Now, down at the border, the deep state, the Dems, they're pushing their agenda. There was a fake photo on Twitter. This photo was taken during the Obama era, which was 2014. And they were using this to show how the children are sleeping on the floors and the treatment they were receiving. And guess what happened? They were caught. They were called out on it, saying, wait a minute, this photo was taken by the Associated Press in 2014. You know what they did next? They deleted the tweet with the picture. Because if nobody said anything, they would have used it and blamed it on Trump. And the Trump campaign immediately flagged the tweet, writing House Democrats are promoting their civil rights hearing on kids in cages and inhumane treatment with a photo from 2014, when Joe Biden was vice president. So dishonest. Absolutely. And again, the Dems, the deep state, they're losing the entire narrative on the border because they're getting caught up in what they're trying to push. And Trump and the Patriots, he's continually boxing them in. We have a border crisis. The mainstream media, the Dems, no, we don't. Then all of a sudden they wanted to call attention to the border and they tell us there's a border crisis. Trump then says, that's what I've been saying. You've been saying I've been making this up. And then all of a sudden there's a crisis. Then they're saying, oh, these people down there, they're not being treated well. Trump says, let's bring in the press. Let's take a look. Then they put up photos from 2014, which counters what is really going on down at the border. We also had a Border Patrol agent walk us through the facilities to show that they get food, they get health care, they get blankets, they have showers, they have temperature-controlled rooms. Remember, this is not a prison. They can leave anytime they want. They can go right back to Mexico or their country. They can ask for asylum in Mexico. Why don't they leave the centers? Because it's a lot better in there than it is out in the open in Mexico or heading back to their own country. Now, very interestingly, Trump and the Patriots, they are pushing the citizenship question on the census. Trump wants this, and it has to be there. Why? We need to know who's a citizen and who's not a citizen in this country. And of course, it's part of a bigger plan. Now, what's happening here is that they're trying to stop this from happening. I'm talking about the deep state, the Dems. They do not want this question on the census because then it would reveal who's here legally and who isn't. And their entire plan would go down the tubes. And this is exactly what Trump and the Patriots want. They want their plan to be exposed, which I believe will happen. But what happened here was a federal judge in Manhattan denied the Trump administration's request to change its legal team in the census citizenship question case. Now, Trump tweeted out the following. So now, the Obama-appointed judge on the census case, are you a citizen of the United States, won't let the Justice Department use the lawyers that it wants to use. Could this be a first? Yeah, it seems so. But remember, Q has been telling us that all of this is going to lead to voter ID. And very interestingly, Chad Pergram tweeted out the following. Senators now receiving briefing on election security from DNI Coates, FBI Director Wray, and others. Now, this is very interesting. And it looks like the election fraud, voter ID, and everything else will be making the news very, very soon. Now, very interestingly, a judge has ruled that Trump cannot block Twitter critics. And they're saying he's a public figure, and the First Amendment kicks in, and he just can't block people. And of course, the White House is saying, listen, they can still read the tweet. He just wants to block certain individuals. And they said, absolutely no. Now, I do believe that this is for something much, much larger. But very interestingly, AOC, she is blocking individuals on Twitter. Now, if Trump can't do it, she can't do it. And no one else in government can do it. So there are 2 lawsuits right now filed against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, saying, listen, she cannot be blocking our comments, because if Trump cannot block it, neither can she. She's a public servant. And the First Amendment kicks in. And remember, these social media platforms, they are public utilities. They're not publishers. They can't say, hey, this story is true, this story is false, this is why we're removing this individual. But they're trying to have everything. They're trying to be a public utility and a publisher at the same exact time, which will not work. And this is why we see the investigation of the antitrust violations and the Sherman Act. This is why we see the investigation going on right now. And I do believe that we're going to hear news about this coming up very, very soon. Because as of right now, the White House, well, they're having this big conference, and they didn't invite the big tech social media giants to attend. And it's about social media. Think about what is going on right now. Now, we are seeing peace everywhere. There's peace in North Korea. There's going to be peace in Syria. The troops are going to be removed. A lot of them already have been. The rest are going to be removed. We're seeing peace in Libya, Lebanon. Yes, there's still fighting going on, but guess what? Those deep state players that had regime change in these countries, they are losing ground very, very quickly. And we already see out in Afghanistan, it looks like the final peace agreement will be signed on September 1st. And the latest round of talks between the U.S. and the Taliban have ended with what is being called a roadmap to peace. The talks effectively have an agreement on the U.S. withdrawal and the Taliban fighting against the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, and commits both sides to a deal to end civilian casualties and negotiate with the Afghan government. And it looks like that this agreement will be finalized September 1st. And this would be the day of signing. And then we move forward from there. The deep state is continually losing ground. Remember, in Afghanistan, we've been there for 18 years or so. Remember, the intelligence organizations, they use the poppy fields to pay for their covert operations. They protect them. They harvest them. They expand them. That is all changing. We also see peace in Ukraine. The new president there, Zelensky, calls for Putin and Trump to join peace talks. So everything that the deep state, Joe Biden, Obama, and the rest, where they had regime change in Ukraine, and we know there's an investigation going on with Biden about how much money Hunter has made in Ukraine. There was a little secret deal behind closed doors. Peace is now being pushed by the new leader. We're seeing peace everywhere. Let's get into some of Q's posts. Now, this is post 3394, and we just talked about Ukraine, and this post has to do with the Bidens. Q gives us a link to CNBC, and this is Joe and Jill Biden made more than $15 million in 2 years after leaving the White House tax return show. Former Vice President Joe Biden and his wife Jill made more than $15 million in 2 years after he left office. Now, they're saying he did this from a book deal. Q says $15 million plus. Personally declared. What an amazing coincidence. Think yesterday's drop. Disguised under book deals. And remember when he came into office? He had hardly any money. Now, all of a sudden, he's very, very wealthy. Let's flash back to 2007. Then Senator Joe Biden lamented his relative lack of wealth, saying during a debate that his net worth is $75,000 to $150,000. That's what happens when you get elected at 29. Really? And we know he doesn't make all of this money from the book deals. The books aren't even selling. Yes, I know sometimes you see them on the New York Times bestseller list, but that list is not what everyone thinks. A lot of it is a bunch of BS. And they put these books on there to make it seem like it's very, very successful. But in the bookstore, they continually slash and slash the price. Let's move on to post 3395. Q gives us whitehouse.gov. And this is an executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. So what is this all about? This is about those individuals who are involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. Section 1 says all property and interest in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States or that are or hereafter come within the possession or control of any United States person of the following persons are blocked and may not be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in. So Q is saying this is worth remembering. It was planned. Think about what's happening now with Epstein and all the players. Q says 1 + 1 = 2. Let's move on to post 3396. Q says Bill Clinton, Ray Chandler, Epstein plane pics. Did the FBI Department of Justice interview Ray Chandler? Most likely not. When did public awareness grow across social media? Class 1 to 99. And this looks like it's classification, it's bold, and it's in kill brackets. What age is Rachel Chandler in the picture? Under the age of 18? Yes. Q says 15 in brackets, bold. Who posted the picture? Rachel Chandler. Who posted internal security cam pics, Temple, on Instagram? Rachel Chandler. Untouchable mindset by all involved. Blackmail, power, top-down protection. Plane plus Temple plus XYZ pics equals witness. Witness plus classification 1 through 99. Why did Ray Chandler start from a modeling talent agency? Because we know this is how these people are brought in. Why was Rachel Chandler, Epstein, and the M Temple highlighted in the past? Dark to people. These people are sick. So the Jeffrey Epstein rabbit hole goes a lot deeper than many people think. His real job was to run a blackmail operation to ensnare some of the most wealthy and powerful people on earth. Now, think about this for a second. Why would he be doing this? Because this is all backed by the intelligence organizations to control all of these people, politicians, wealthy individuals. Because if they don't do what they say, they release this information. If this information is released, their reputation and everything they work for completely disappears. Now, in the news, we hear that Nancy Pelosi and the mainstream media, they're attacking Acosta. During his confirmation hearings, he was asked, is the Epstein case going to cause a problem for confirmation hearings? Acosta had explained that back in the day, he had just one meeting on the Epstein case. He cut the non-prosecution deal with one of Epstein's attorneys because he had been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. He said, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Wait a minute. Epstein belonged to intelligence and he was told to back off? Well, guess what? Acosta just let everyone know what Epstein was really doing. Everyone thought Epstein was completely untouchable. But guess what? He's not untouchable. And it looks like they're going after him. And everything is going to be exposed. Now, what's very interesting is that the mainstream media, they're not even saying, hey, look what he's done. What about the poor girls? What about these individuals that were blackmailed? Who are they? Lisa Crowley tweeted out the following. Isn't it weird how the media is obsessing over Acosta's role in Epstein's plea deal in 2008, but isn't outraged about what Epstein did to all those young girls and all those other people that were doing things to young girls? Nothing. Now, what's very interesting is Jeffrey Epstein shipped a shredder from the U.S. Virgin Islands to his Palm Beach home in July 2008, shortly after reaching a non-prosecution agreement with then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta. Maritime records show this. Then in March of this year, shortly after a Florida federal judge invalidated that agreement, Epstein shipped a tile and carpet extractor from the Virgin Islands to his Manhattan townhouse. You think he's trying to cover up things? Absolutely. Now, the mainstream media continually tries to point the finger at Trump that he's involved with Epstein. But there is a picture of Clinton with Chelsea Clinton at her wedding, and guess who attended the wedding? Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell, who is accused of grooming and obtaining underage girls of pedophilia billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, was pictured at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Epstein had already been convicted for sex crime by Chelsea's 2010 wedding. Maxwell appears in the photo just feet away from Bill Clinton as he walked his daughter down the aisle. No connection? Absolutely. Paul Sperry tweeted out the following. Breaking. Google photos of Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton, previously available on Google Images, appear to have been scrubbed. What? Yes. The big tech companies right now, they are scrubbing the internet. Why? Because they're trying to control the narrative. Who told them to do this? The intelligence agencies. The deep state. Clandestine, this is an ad at Rod Sneaky, tweeted out the following. 1. At Paul Sperry, with some seriously big accusations against Google, so I decided to look for myself. I've still yet to find any of these alleged pics Sperry speaks of, but what you are about to see should deeply disturb you nonetheless. At Google, I'm coming for you, he says. Number 2. Big tech does this stuff all the time. This is a prime example. Go ahead, try it yourself. Go to Google and type in Jeffrey Epstein, and the list of names that pops up is rather curious. You may notice a name is not there. Is Bill not relevant to the current news? Number 3, since I'm already cognizant to the way big tech likes to play games, I decided to juxtapose how Google search autofills for the first letter of Donald and Bill's names. Try it yourself. Type Jeffrey Epstein and with a D and with a B, and you can see how they fill this in. They completely wipe the autofill for Jeffrey Epstein and B, but you drop a D in there and they show you every Donald Trump related theory out there. So I decided to fill in the rest of Bill's name to see if the autofill would help me. It didn't. You'll notice a difference between the two searches. If there ever were pics of Clinton and Bill, they aren't there. But of course, look at Trump. Google is portraying the two relationships very differently. Hold on, it gets worse. Scroll down under the Bill search. At Google has many pics of Trump and Epstein. Trump isn't in the search bar. Under the Trump search, not a single image of Bill. Google is playing sides. The information hub of the planet is biased against Trump. Someone wake up George Orwell and tell him he was right, because the globalist-controlled dystopia is happening right here, right now. Do you all understand how significant this is? How horrific this is? Bill went to the island 26 times. Google is hiding that connection. This is how big tech and their controllers are able to shape public perception and shift reality itself. This is Orwellian fascism by its very definition. It should terrorize you to your core. Big tech, Hollywood, mainstream media, all covering up the Clintons, shifting eyes. Does this not prove that the establishment and the corporations are distorting and hiding the truth from us? Ever hear of the book burning in Germany, where Hitler burned the history books to keep the sheep in the dark? Google, you're doing this on an exponential scale. And he went on to say, Google, let's make one thing extremely clear. You all don't control the flow of information anymore. We the people do. We have outgrown you. We've adapted faster than you. And we are more powerful than you. You've accomplished nothing except getting added to our list. Let's move on to post 3397. Q gives us a Twitter link to Bill Maher. It says, no joke and or reference to Epstein. No attempt to connect back to POTUS. Silence. Because he is the hunted. Q. And if you look at his Twitter, there is nothing. Post 3398 gives us a link to post 2886. This is Bill Maher. His production company is called Kid Love Production. Very interesting. And then it shows Bill Maher in a hood with a laptop, and it has the letter Q on it. And it says down below, not so funny now. Post 3399. Q gives us a YouTube video, and it says, welcome to Epstein Island. Ask yourself, is this normal? And this is a view of Epstein Island. The residence, the temple, the cave opening, and you can see it all. And Q says, what does a temple typically symbolize? Well, a temple is a building reserved for religious or spiritual rituals and activities such as prayer or maybe sacrifice. What does an owl symbolize? Dark religion. An owl can see in the dark. Oculists like to use the owl as one of their symbols because they can see things that the average person from the public cannot. Occult members are enlightened to the dark inner workings of secret societies. Now, very interestingly, the owl also appears on the $1 bill. It's right above the one on the right-hand side, a little bit to the left, and it's very tiny. Now remember, this is a central bank debt note, and it's interesting, they put a tiny owl within the $1 bill. And Q continues to say, tunnels underneath? Yes. How many channels captured Rachel Chandler's pic? 16, 4x4. Rooms indicate size? Yes. And these rooms are actually a very nice size. Hallway shown? Yes. And there are stairs. And Q says class 1 to 99, all classified. Symbolism will be their downfall. These people are evil. Post 3400. And Anon put up a Q proof. And it says, do you believe in coincidences? And this is showing General Michael Flynn how he is in the news, and shows the times, the dates, and Q saying Flynn news coming. And as soon as Q said that, boom, all this news about Flynn. Q says, do you believe in coincidences? No, it was all planned. Now, what has been happening with Flynn? The Justice Department, in an order on July 3rd, reversed its position on General Flynn in the Flynn Intel Group Farah case, and is now alleging Flynn is an unindicted co-conspirator rather than a government witness for an upcoming trial for his former business partner. A federal judge assigned to the Farah case on Tuesday slammed the corrupt Department of Justice and signaled support for General Flynn after Mueller's thugs planned to designate Flynn as an unindicted co-conspirator in the trial for Bijan Rafkian. U.S. District Judge for the Eastern District of Virginia, Anthony Trenga, a George W. Bush appointee, ruled in a 37-page memorandum on Tuesday evening that the Department of Justice has not presented evidence sufficient to establish evidence of conspiracy for the purpose of admitting the hearsay statements of alleged co-conspirators Flynn. This is good news. And what did it show? Well, it showed that the Farah statement and related filings do not reflect the existence of the alleged conspiracy to act as an undisclosed Turkish agents. The judge also stated that the U.S. didn't have the evidence that Turkey funded the work by Flynn Intel Group. Judge Emmett Sullivan, who was assigned to a separate case for General Flynn, issued an order Tuesday afternoon demanding a full explanation as to why prosecutors are now reversing their decision to call Flynn as a witness. Let's move on to Post 3401. This is Rachel Chandler's Instagram. There's video cameras, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 16, and there's 16 channels 4x4. And Q says, note 2013 on the bottom. Date is important, Q. So this date, 2013, is very important. And what's important about it? Well, I believe this goes with the flight logs, and Q wants us to look at both what was happening during this period of time, who was flying down in 2013. Post 3402. Anon says, I see at least 3 staircases. Q says, degree of incline indicate a depth. And it looks like it goes pretty deep, and it looks like this is underneath the temple. Post 3403. Anon says, the flight log. Look at the flight logs on July 19th, 2013. That's what everyone is digging for, and that's what everyone is looking at. And once that information is available, it will be produced. Post 3404. July 19th, 2013, real time with Bill Maher. This is World Youth Day for the Catholic Church. I mean, this is a big jamboree. Look at that. This is where all the kids in the world get together with priests. What could go wrong? Q says, follow the date. Brackets bold, one example, no coincidences. And it looks like a lot happened on this date. And we know there's many people involved in all of this. The deep state, they're panicking. How do you know they're panicking? When they start to scrub, when they start to point the finger at Trump, and everything that they're doing only shows Trump, and it shows nothing else, well, that's where you look. Everything that they're not reporting on, everything they're not showing you. That's how you know they're panicking. Because once that information comes out, guess what? The party is over. Who's in control here? The Patriots. Just like with Russian collusion, everything is going to be turned around, and the deep state, they're going to be running for cover. Remember, they are the hunted. The hunters are coming after them, and they're trying to hide. There is no hiding. They will be found out, and they will be brought to justice. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.